So now that we get that out of the way, I want to get into your story.
Sure.
So you're born in South Africa.
Yes, I'm born in South Africa. Elon's born in South Africa. Yeah.
Now, when you were a child, apartheid was still a thing.
Yes.
From your point of view, how would you describe it?
Well, apartheid was something that, South Africa inherited from the European powers that occupied Africa, up until about this sort of starting in the 60s, they started to sort of get rid of Africa. So everywhere in Africa, up until about, 65 or so, was apartheid. So if you went to any country, which I did, Rhodesia in those days, Northern Rhodesia, the Congo, it was all apartheid. Everywhere was apartheid. It's just that South Africa put a label on it in 1948, calling it apartheid. But we inherited this in South Africa, we inherited it from the British occupier or the British government that we had here for nearly, at the time, nearly 200 years. So I don't know if you know, for example, people of color were not allowed into Holland at all, although Holland had many places in the world, like Batavia in the east and all that sort of stuff. Colored people were not allowed into Holland. It was against the law. So even we had a colored governor in the Cape when the Dutch were running South Africa. That's before the British, called Simon van der Stel. He was a mulatto colored. He wasn't allowed. He was the governor of the Cape and he was a very famous guy. He was never allowed into Holland. So these are things we inherited, and unfortunately, it took time to get rid of these type of things. And ingrained beliefs, had to be put aside. Took time. And today in South Africa, we actually have a situation today in South Africa where, it's like the best it's ever been. We don't have any kind of racism. I've never seen racism. In fact, I'll give you $100 if you can show me, even more if you could show me a racist incident in South Africa. It doesn't exist.
Well, you actually remember when Mandela got locked up.
Yes, I do. I was at Mandela's trial in 1963 when I was in final year school. I went on my bicycle I was interested in that kind of thing, and he was on trial at the synagogue, oddly enough, in the main street in Pretoria, the capital city. He was on trial for murder, the murdering of women and children. And he was sentenced to death. And then the sentence was commuted, which resulted in people literally crying and weeping in the street because they wanted him hanged because of the terrible things that he had done. But thank God they didn't hang him. I mean, I don't believe in that kind of thing. And he went on to become a very inspirational leader.
I mean, if I were to tell you in 1963 that Mandela is going to go to prison for 27 years and then get out and then become the first black president of South Africa, what would you say to me?
Well, I wouldn't have said that in the street at the time because you would have probably had upset people very much because they would have thought you off your head. But I've said recently, about this chap, Tommy Robinson, I said on British television that he's similar to some respects to Mandela because they've jailed him in solitary confinement for 18 months because he is pointing fingers at the gang rape gangs in England. It's also a political prisoner, and I said on the television, Tommy Robinson is very likely one of your future prime ministers. Same sort of thing, and I equated it to the situation with Mandela. I mean, who would have thought? But in the end, common sense prevails, and Mandela was a fantastic influence. Unfortunately, I saw him at the inauguration. I've never actually met him, but when he was inaugurated as president, but I never actually met him. But he was a tremendously good influence on South Africa.
Okay, so you're living in South Africa, you graduate high school, and you go to college at the University of Pretoria.
I went to the University of Witwatersrand.
Oh.
Wits. And then I subsequently went to Pretoria University.
Okay, got it.